Welcome to the Daily Dose of Derm podcast, your go-to podcast for all things dermatology. I'm Dr. Mohiba Tareen, a board-certified dermatologist and the founder of Tareen Dermatology. Join us as we dive into the fascinating world of skincare, beauty, dermatologic treatment, and how to enter the world of derm. Whether you're a skincare enthusiast or an aspiring medical professional, this podcast is your daily dose of knowledge and inspiration. Get ready to uncover the secrets to healthy skin and discover how to make a meaningful impact in the field.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Dose of Derm. Today, we are so excited to be launching a bonus podcast series. Normally, we talk a lot about health and dermatology, and we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about financial health. And so we have a lineup of amazing guests this series. We'll be talking about everything from credit to Bitcoin to investing to student loans, all of the things that help build financial wealth and stability. And today it is my absolute honor to be introducing one of my colleagues and friends, Cheryl Davis, the COO at Tareen Dermatology. Cheryl, thank you for being here. Cheryl has an amazing background, and she's going to get into a little bit about the more detail in that background. However, I know that Cheryl ran an amazing accounting firm of her own for many years and had over 80 clients. Cheryl, thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks for having me today. I'm very happy to be here. So in 1993, I started a small accounting consulting company and with just a handful of clients, and built that business over 28 years to have over 80 clients. I worked it very part-time when I was raising my kids. And in 1993, that was the thing that you did. If you wanted to stay home with your kids and work part-time, you had your own company. There weren't flexible work schedules back then. There was no work from home. You were either 8 to 5 in an office or you had some flexibility, and this was my way to have flexibility.
That's amazing.
In 2021, my largest client, Tareen Dermatology, asked me to sell my firm and come in-house. And I did that, and I haven't looked back.
Well, I can say for certain that Cheryl is the smartest person in the room, usually, if not always. And we are very lucky to have you. We're so lucky to have this financial accounting, anything numbers. Cheryl is the master of. We're really lucky to have you in-house as an asset for the company and for our employees. Cheryl, a couple things we want to target today are kind of helping young people and anybody listening talk about financial fitness or what that money mindset might look like. So I want to talk a little bit about why is financial literacy, meaning why is financial learning or being astute in the financial world for young people important?
I think anytime you're on a journey, you have to know where you are and where you're going. And if you don't know where you are in your finances, you can't get where you're going.
Like that.
And you need to set a goal for yourself always. In my generation, my parents never shared anything about finances with us.
Interesting.
In my generation, I'm sharing more with my children to give them the financial tools so they can be financially literate. And I think every generation is sharing more information, and we need to have those conversations with our children all the time.
That's really smart. And I know when I had my very first paycheck and my very first job, I didn't really know what to do with it. I'm sure I made lots of mistakes along the way. I know I did. But what have you seen working with young people in your career? What are some of those common mistakes that young people make with their first paycheck?
Well, first of all, they don't understand where all the money goes, right? Like, why are there so many taxes taken out? They just assume that if they're making $20 an hour times 40 hours a week, they're going to get a check for $800. It doesn't work that way. So you have to understand, what is your net paycheck going to be, and how much do your benefits cost? How much are you putting away in retirement, and what is that net paycheck really going to be? And many people have no idea what that's going to be.
I even remember thinking about, okay, I've got an apartment that I'm trying to attain. That was my big goal, is to have an apartment that I could afford to rent with a new job. But to your point, if I didn't understand what my take home was going to be, that I think is what you're alluding to, is understanding what that take home is going to be, right? That's a really big deal. And so as people start on their financial journey, no matter what their age, whether they start working when they're 18 or whether they start their own business or they're in school and they're just graduating, how do you recommend starting a healthy financial future as a young individual?
First of all, you need to really protect yourself. And so surround yourself with people that can give you really good advice. Secondly, the old adage my grandmother always told me that if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, will save you. And third, you get what you pay for. So if you go in and you're buying the very cheapest car insurance because that's what you can afford, if you get in a catastrophic accident, you might have a very big gap in coverage. You may end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your own pocket. You might not have rental car coverage if you're in a car crash. How are you going to get to work? How are you going to keep your job? Those types of things, you need to look at all the fine print. Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean that it's better coverage. You need to compare apples to apples in everything and make sure you're adequately covered. Another thing that I see all the time is young people do not buy renter's insurance.
Aha. Very smart.
And it's very inexpensive. It's probably less than $30 a month, which is what now, maybe 4 trips to Starbucks.
Yeah.
You can be covered if your building burns down, if there's a flood, if someone steals all of your stuff. Do you really want to start over having absolute nothing? With a renter's policy, if your building burns down, they're going to pay to rent you someplace while your place is being rebuilt. They're going to cover all of your belongings. I've seen people have absolutely nothing after a catastrophic event because they just didn't know to buy the coverage.
Right. And it's sort of that old saying of what you don't know, you don't know. So start investigating and learning about those financial options.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely did not know, Cheryl, that I should have had a renter's insurance as a young person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still young, but that is a really important takeaway. Anybody who's renting that's listening, make sure you get renter's insurance. In terms of perspective, you have so much perspective on money and thinking about kind of the financial climate of how things have changed over the years. What is your perspective on money and young people as they evolve in their career, as financial climate changes? What do you recommend on how people should anticipate those changes as they grow in their career?
I think that you should put as much money away for retirement as you possibly can and start super early.
Okay.
One thing I didn't do is start super early because I had just started my firm. I was raising kids. I was working 15 hours a week. There wasn't a lot of extra money at the time. I should have started saving even a small amount way back in 1993. I'd be retired right now. But I should have done that. And looking back, there's ways to figure that out, but I didn't at the time.
Okay.
I started saving, but not soon enough.
Got it.
So the younger you are, the more time that money has to grow. So you have to figure out, what are your priorities? Is it, if you'd like to put away $100 a month, can you find $100 a month and put that away for 30 years? It's worth over $100,000.
Amazing.
$100 a month is sometimes what people spend just on takeout, coffee, those little things, those drip, drip, drip spending is what I call.
Okay.
You ever have a leak in your ceiling and you put a bucket below it, it's just dripping, and you come back an hour later, the bucket's full? That's what happens to your spending. You just spend $5 here, $10 here, whatever, little treats for yourself, and then all of a sudden at the end of the month, $150, $200, $300 is gone with these little tiny spendings that you could be saving for a new car, saving for a house, saving for retirement, or a wonderful trip somewhere.
Right.
But instead, you just it just bleeds right out of your account very quickly.
You know, it's really interesting you say that, because I think that, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but in today's day and age, there's a lot of impulsivity in behaviors with social media. It's so easy just to click and buy, Amazon, click and buy. And so do you think that whole drip, drip, drip categorization has gotten to be more complex as things have changed with how easy it is to buy and the impulsivity of people now?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when I was young, if you wanted something, you got the JCPenney catalog and you sent away a check and your order form. In about 2 months, you got your item back. So now it's, people are, they have same day Amazon delivery. So you can order it and get it today. You don't have to think about it. And people confuse these two words all the time. And I've been guilty of it as well. Need and want.
Mm-hmm.
They're both 4 letters.
Right.
Do you need it or do you want it?
That's great advice.
And you need to really think about that, because very few of us can buy everything we want.
Right.
Hopefully we can afford everything we need and a lot of things we want. But later in life, you're going to have a lot more financial needs. and not as many wants, because you have everything you want, but you're going to need money for healthcare and
Yes.
other expenses in retirement.
Yes. So let's talk about budgeting basics. Budgeting is a struggle for a lot of people to get a handle on when they're young. And even probably, I'm sure you in your career saw successful adults even struggle with budgeting. So let's talk about what is a budget, why is it important?
Well, in order to save for a house or something like that, you need to know how much money you can afford in a house payment and how quickly you can save money to get that house. When my husband and I were young, we were saving for our very first house, and we went down to one car. He decided to take the bus to work, and we sold a car, so we just had one car, and it helped us save even quicker to buy our first house. But that was a sacrifice we were willing to make. Really good software is Quicken. There's an app, you can get it online. Start tracking what you're spending. Where is your money going? Do you have $200 more a month that you can save towards a house payment? Where is that money going right now? Set up an automatic savings program with your employer. So here at Tareen Dermatology, you can designate, $200 out of your paycheck to go in a savings account every other Friday, and then the rest goes in your checking account. If it doesn't hit your checking account, you're not as apt to spend it because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And it just sort of automates your saving program.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every employer has something like that where you can automate it.
What an amazing benefit.
So then take a look at what you're spending. Be realistic. It's kind of like a little diary. Where did all the money go?
Mm-hmm.
And take a look at that. Show of hands, how many people here reconcile their checking account at the end of every month? Like truly reconcile it.
It's crickets in here.
It's just me. But you need to be looking at your checking account. Where are things going? Do you have subscription services for $3.99 or $4.99 a month that you're not using anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Cancel those things. Again, that's that drip, drip, drip that's just coming right out of your account.
Smart.
Also, if there's an error in your checking account or your credit card, you only have, in some cases, 30 days to notify the banks of those errors, or you can't get your money back.
Wow.
And banks make errors all the time.
I believe that. I did notice on my personal checking, they now have diagrams and things that show what percentage of the pie you're spending things at, if it's retail or if it's food or what categories. So like you said, there's resources there, use them. And then you get a better idea of where your drip is coming from if you need to save more money. We've talked a little bit about budgeting methods, and we talked about Quicken and the apps. So remember, Quicken is a great app. I'm sure there's other ones out there that are just as easy to use. But what is the most common mistake people make when making a budget?
Well, not allowing for growth in your income or in your spending if prices are going up. Let's say your rent is going to go up $40 a month when it renews. Your car, you bought a new car, you have a higher car payment, but your car insurance is going to go up as well with a new car. So not allowing for those increases in your budget will throw your budget off. So you have to look in the past and see what historically you've been spending, but then okay, I remember this is going to happen starting in June. My student loan payment is going to go up $100 a month. I need to budget for that. You don't want to be surprised. You never want to be surprised with your finances. So write an accurate budget and what's going to happen in the future as well. And if you blow your budget this month, let's say you blow your budget this week. Don't say, well, that's fine. I blew it this week. I'm just going to keep going for the whole month. Nope. Get right back on track.
Okay.
Go back to your budget, keep thinking about it, and get back on track right away.
Smart. And one thing, one question that I've heard before is when I'm saving money and I have a purpose to save money for, let's say it's buying a vehicle or putting a down payment on a home, or maybe it's I'm saving money that I think should be paid towards a debt, because I want to pivot to talking about debt. It's sort of this taboo topic. Nobody wants to admit they have debt, or nobody wants to talk about it because it feels painful. It feels like they're exposing themselves. A lot of people carry a lot of debt, and it just rolls over every single month, and it can become a big stress for people or families. And understandably, the market right now has made that more difficult for families with interest rates and all of those things. But when we're thinking about saving, Cheryl, with people who have debt. Are the people that have the debt supposed to just start paying down the debt first? Or should they put the money away if their only options are one or the other? As a financial expert, what do you recommend?
You need to have a savings account for emergencies. Too many times people end up losing their apartments or ending up homeless because some sort of catastrophe has happened to them and they have no cushion at all to fall back on. A lot of people in the 20 to 35-year-old range, they do not have credit cards. They just have debit cards.
Yeah.
So they don't even have a cushion of a credit card to go back to if the tire blows on their car. They can't get a tire. They can't get to work. It's a snowball effect of not having a cushion or resources to handle if something goes wrong. And trust me, everything goes wrong at some point.
Of course.
We're all going to deal with it.
Of course.
It does. So you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
Just like if you have a high deductible health plan at work, that premium is less for you. But if your appendix goes, all of a sudden you might owe the first $5,000. You should be building that cushion to cover those medical expenses should you need them, because you will have to pay that first out of pocket. You should have enough to cover the deductible if you crash your car.
Yeah.
You should have enough, to cover rent or something else. And you should also look at your employer and see, how are they protecting you in case of a catastrophe? Do you have disability insurance? If your knee goes and you need knee surgery and you're out of work for 6 weeks, are you going to get any income from your employer or not?
Right.
A lot of people in this age group change jobs very frequently. And the lure of a higher paycheck sometimes will lure you away from a job. And you might think, oh, I'm going to make $2 more an hour. This is great. But the new employer doesn't have a match on the 401k, or they might not have disability insurance to cover you in case of a disability.
Yeah.
Those types of things that help your financial stability should be factored into when you make a job leave. It shouldn't just be for the paycheck itself.
Such good advice. I do think many people have the wool pulled over them about a higher salary with poor benefits, right? And it doesn't always outweigh the other one, and usually not, as you've alluded to. We talked about saving and the importance of it, having a cushion. Let's talk a little bit about credit and credit cards. Many people don't even know what credit is until they get to that point where maybe they're going to buy a home or or buy a car that requires a credit check. So can you give listeners a little bit of a 101 and then your advice about building credit or protecting your credit?
You need to protect your credit at all costs, because if your credit is bad, every single thing you buy will cost you more. Your car insurance will cost you more money if your credit is bad. Your cell phone plan will cost you more if your credit is bad. That home that you're going to buy will cost you more if your credit is bad. The interest rates on everything go up because you're a higher risk. So you need to make sure that at all costs you pay your bills on time. If you have credit card debt, if you have a car payment, set it up to auto pay at least the minimum payment so it doesn't show a ding on your credit all the time.
Because what happens, just in case anybody listening doesn't know, if I'm late on paying a credit card bill, then what happens, Cheryl?
Then your credit score goes down.
Could they report it?
They do report it. Everything is reported to the credit bureaus. And that takes a long time to get that off your credit history. Then you think, okay, I'll miss one payment. Oops, it's fine. No, it hits you and it stays with you for a long time. And you're going to pay for that in higher interest rates for a long time.
Yes, that is something to stay on top of. I know that when my husband and I were buying our first home, we were both thankful that we had good credit scores to be able to get a lower interest rate at the time. But there are so many things that factor into it. It's not just credit, meaning I think people assume it's only credit cards. It's not just credit cards. It's things like if you ever had a personal loan, if you have student loans, anybody listening that has student loans, those are all factored into your credit score as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and how much you utilize. Let's say you have a credit card and it has a $5,000 balance, and you're always at $4,500 to $4,700 of that available credit. It really hurts your credit. So it's the utilization of your available credit will also ding your credit score.
What is a healthy percentage to be in? Because I know there's probably not everybody can just pay the $5,000 balance every month if that's what they're accruing. Maybe they need a better budget. But what is a healthier percentage of that credit utilization?
Get it down as low as you possibly can. If you have things on your credit card, it shouldn't be for a trip to Fiji. It should be perhaps for an emergency that you didn't deal with very well because you didn't have the savings for, but you needed to get your car repaired, something like that. Use your credit card for that. Don't be using it to travel and then be paying 24% interest on that trip that you took with your girlfriends for a weekend because it sounded like fun. And then all of a sudden you have these huge bills, and that trip is costing you so much more as you build up the interest on that constantly.
I remember my dad gave me advice one time. He said, don't put it on your credit card unless you absolutely have to, but don't put fun things on your credit card unless you could pay that same bill the same day with money that you have in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is kind of like having a loan, but if you don't pay it, then you're stuck with a fat bill and the interest rate on top of it. Okay.
There's good debt and there's bad debt. So, buying a home, that's good debt. Homes appreciate in value. They build wealth. And someday when you retire, it would be really nice not to have a house payment. It's a depreciable asset. Student loan debt, I think of that as within reason, good debt, because it's building something that helps you earn more in your career and get a long-term skill, a trade school, college, whatever it is. That's good debt as well. Car loans, you have to be able to get to work. And many people lose jobs because they don't have reliable transportation to work. They can't make it to work. The car's broken. They call in too many times. They're let go. And then it's this vicious cycle of, I don't have money to fix the car because I can't get a car to get to work. And it's a terrible vicious cycle. Yep. So that's an okay debt. But getting the latest and greatest Xbox because I'm bored, or, flying off somewhere, lunches out every single day, Starbucks, putting all that on your credit card and just letting it compound interest, that's not good debt.
I think it's so smart to think about that drip, 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 Cheryl. That's some advice that I will take home myself too, because there are wants and needs, like for my children I have that are needs, and medical bills that are needs. But I'm sure there's things that I could probably shave off the top that I certainly don't need, that I could then pack away into more money into a 401k or into investing or whatever it may be. But that's really, really good advice. I think everybody should remember that. I want to talk about some investing though, because investing in your future is really important. And like you alluded to earlier in the episode, you wish you would have invested sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 questions for you. One is, number 1, where do I start? And number 2, how do I know when I need a financial advisor like you or a financial investment partner?
I think you start as early as you can. If you have a match at all at your company, you need to take advantage of that match. If you're not, you're just throwing that money away. So if your employer matches 3%, if you put 3% away, for sure you got to eke out 3%. You've got to just find a way to do that. Otherwise, you're giving that benefit away. So start doing that as soon as you possibly can. Your employer should have resources for you to talk to somebody there to help you make your choices in what funds to pick for your 401k or your retirement. Whether or not you put it in pre-tax or if you put it in Roth, you should talk to somebody. It's based on your financial need. Many younger people are putting it in Roth right now because their tax rates, if they're in a lower tax bracket, aren't high, and they're hoping to build wealth, and they're going to be in higher tax brackets later.
Mm-hmm.
So it really changes based on your earning potential, whether you do Roth or pre-tax 401k. So there's resources always at every company. And then as you decide to build wealth and you want a formal financial plan, reach out to a formal financial planner, somebody who is certified, somebody who may come as a recommendation from someone else, someone who might be a fee-only financial planner, where for a fee, they'll do an entire financial plan for you and tell you, if you keep on this track, this is what you can expect at retirement age of 55 or something like that.
Got it. I like that. And so on the flip side of that, let's say there's somebody listening that does not have a great employer plan or great benefits like we do here at Tareen Dermatology. Do you recommend like some of those apps that are out there, like Acorns, or some of these, free applications that promise wealth, or, you can invest some money into? I know that's kind of a really popular thing right now for a lot of people just to sort of play with. Is that your recommendation, or do you think it's better to do something else?
Well, those types of investment are not guaranteed by the FDIC. So if the company goes out of business, your money in some respects can be gone. So you need to make sure that You keep money in savings in a bank account, it's protected up to $250,000. So then if that bank goes out of business, the FDIC is going to give you your money back. So you should keep some money on hand and then invest the rest in reputable. Go online to Vanguard. You can start investing in index funds yourself. You can do those types of things relatively easily. Use somebody that's very reputable, like you, like Vanguard or Fidelity, some of those big companies where you can get accounts and invest very easily in some index funds, and it'll build wealth for you too.
That's awesome.
And then if you get really savvy, you can start picking stocks of your own. Pick stocks that you're interested in. You know, if you love Starbucks, buy stock in Starbucks. If you
I like that.
you like movies, buy stock at AMC. Those types of things. But get your savings account going, get some index funds going, max out your 401k, all those things first.
So what I'm hearing for you, some learnings are follow the drip, drip, drip. Save your money, have a cushion, make sure that you keep your credit protected. And because we also know that there's some hackers out there that can go after your credit, and make sure that you're building your credit with good credit and managing what's considered bad debt. And then once you're at a stable position and as early as possible, start investing. So those seem like the 5 pillars of what people should try to strive for, right? I'm going to ask you this because I think that I respect you so much. I want to know, have you ever made a poor financial mistake in your life and learned from it?
I would say not saving for retirement soon enough in my career. That for sure. I'm very conservative.
Yeah.
I will never be the one to risk all of my principal on some sort of pie in the sky investment because I'm too conservative that way, which means I will never have the $1 billion I could have made on this investment that went absolutely crazy.
Yep.
But I'm okay with that because I want to make sure that what I have saved for is protected. My father died 5 days after he retired. And so that really set for me that not only do you have to save for retirement, but you have to live for today too. So you can't not have any fun. You still need to treat yourself, but everything within reason. For me, I allow myself one lunch out a month. I don't order lunch every day. One lunch out a month because by the time you have it delivered, it's like $25.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And I will allow myself one coffee a week if I want to go through a drive-through. That's sort of the things I allow myself because I'd rather travel. And that's the way I treat myself now. Rather than spending money on those types of things, I'd rather use those funds to travel and go fun places.
And I like that money mindset that you have because you're not obsessing over the finances of just managing them. You're thinking about the ways that you can have fun in life without stressing about the financial obligations of that because you've built yourself up for success. Cheryl, reflecting on your career, what you're doing here at Tareen Dermatology, the biggest piece of advice you have for young people, older people in regards to their financial health and wellness, what's your biggest piece of advice?
Watch your finances. Know where your money goes. Be very careful about where you spend and what do you want to do with your money? What do you want your life to look like? Do you want to retire and have to continue working, those types of things? Or do you want to retire and travel and see the world? But remember, you should see the world while you're working too as well. So how do you budget that in? What are your things that you can't live without? I can't live without travel. I can't live without family time. I can't live without some of those things. And so I'm going to find a way in my finances to make those things happen. I love to travel with my grown children. And if they're going to go with me, I'm taking them. And so for me, I'd rather not have the lunches out and the coffees and stuff and be able to take my kids on a trip with me. That's much more worthwhile for me.
I think that's awesome advice. And certainly listening to you, is such a great reminder for someone like me and pretty much anybody listening to this podcast today. Prioritize what makes you happy and isn't an impulse and is something that has, long-term happiness like traveling. I think that that's a great way to think about it. Cheryl, I've learned a ton from you today. I thought I was on top of my drip, drip, drip. I don't think I am. So I need to take a look at my subscriptions and maybe cancel a few things and put that towards something for my financial future. I hope everybody listening had a chance to take away some of Cheryl's expert advice. And I'm really grateful you were here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is the Daily Dose of Derm. Stay curious and stay inspired.